Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unlocking the secrets behind one of the absolute most coveted treasures in all of numismatics, Carson City Coins. Look, if you're just starting out on your collecting journey, you've probably heard the whispers about these legendary pieces, right? Well, today we're going to break down exactly what makes them so special and give you the ultimate beginner's guide to hunting them down.
So how exactly does a tiny little letter C, or rather a double C, turn a totally common coin into an absolute treasure? It's kind of crazy to think about, but an identical coin minted in Philadelphia might be worth just a fraction of one minted out in Nevada, all because of that tiny little stamp. It literally transforms a standard piece of silver or gold into a tangible artifact of the 1870s American frontier.
To get you started on your own collecting journey, we're going to follow a pretty straightforward roadmap today. First up, the Wild West Mint. Then, the magic CC mark. Third, the famous Morgan dollars. After that, avoiding fakes and forgeries. And finally, starting your collection.
Starting with Part 1, the Wild West Mint, a solution to a massive problem. Our story kicks off with a sheer logistical nightmare created back in 1859 by the discovery of the Comstock lode. This was a massive, and I mean massive, silver and gold strike right beneath Virginia City, Nevada. Suddenly you've got prospectors pulling millions of dollars in precious metal out of the dirt. But there was a huge problem. To turn that raw bullion into usable U.S. currency, these miners actually had to haul their heavy ore 150 miles overland, all the way to the San Francisco Mint. That perilous journey cut incredibly deep into profits and honestly left them constantly exposed to the very real threat of highway robbery on the trail. They desperately needed a local solution.
And that brings us to the actual people involved. This portrait of Dr. Anton Chater right here brilliantly illustrates the real, rugged pioneer families behind the Mint's creation. You had these incredibly visionary figures, like his father-in-law, Abraham Curry, a guy often called the father of Carson City, who lobbied so hard for a local mint and personally supervised its construction. And his whole family was just deeply embedded in this frontier life. His son-in-law, Dr. Chater here, was actually an immigrant who served as a surgeon in the Crimean War before coming west to become one of Carson City's first doctors. These were hardened, resilient pioneers building an institution in the middle of a literal gold and silver rush.
Now, thanks to intense lobbying from folks like Curry, the Mint finally opened its doors for coining in 1870. Under the incredibly capable leadership of guys like Superintendent James Crawford, who, by the way, modernized the whole facility with new presses and vastly improved the output, the Mint hit its peak production in the mid-1870s. But man, its operational window was just incredibly turbulent. As the Comstock ore deposits eventually started to run dry, and economic panics along with huge political battles over silver coinage raged back in Washington, the Mint faced constant budgetary pressure. It was actually forced to close down temporarily from 1886 to 1888, briefly reopened, and then permanently ceased all coining operations in 1893 after a really severe economic depression.
So here is the absolute crucial point you need to remember. This legendary facility only actively produced coins for a mere 16 calendar years. That's it, 16 years. When you compare that to places like the Philadelphia or San Francisco mints, which have been operating for well over a century, you can start to see exactly why this creates such an immediate and profound scarcity. They literally just didn't have the time to make that many coins.
And that scarcity, well, it was drastically amplified just a few decades later. Under the 1918 Pittman Act, the U.S. government ended up melting down millions upon millions of silver dollars to help finance World War I. Carson City issues that were just sitting around in treasury vaults faced disproportionate destruction. Countless CC coins were permanently wiped out of existence, turning the ones that did survive into incredibly rare survivors of a bygone era.
Moving on to Part 2, the magic CC mark, a symbol of the frontier. That extreme scarcity we just talked about, combined with the romantic history, is exactly why collectors just endlessly hunt for this distinctive mark. It's arguably the most famous single identifying mark in all of American numismatics.
Finding those two bold letters, usually tucked right beneath the eagle on the reverse of a silver dollar or similarly on the reverse of a gold piece, means you are literally holding a physical piece of the Nevada silver boom in your hand. And the CC letters themselves are typically bolder and way more easily identifiable than the smaller mint marks used by other branch mints. They really just jump right off the coin once you train your eye to look for them.
Unlike coins from the East Coast, CC coins carry this totally unique frontier mystique. Even heavily circulated, low-grade pieces that are worn completely smooth around the edges, they are highly desirable to history buffs.
Collectors absolutely love them because of that tangible connection to the Wild West, their extreme rarity, and, honestly, the pure challenge that comes with trying to complete a collection when you've got massive gaps in the date runs due to those mint closures we talked about earlier.
Okay, part 3. The famous Morgan dollars, the collector's favorite. Look, when most beginners think of Carson City, they think of one coin in particular, the iconic Morgan silver dollar. It was struck in 13 different dates at Carson City between 1878 and 1893, and it is the absolute foundation for most new collectors entering this space.
Check out the massive contrast in production numbers here. Look at these stats. Dates like 1882 and 1883 saw over 1 million coins minted, offering really great budget-friendly entry points for beginners. But then, look at the 1889 CC. With a mintage of only 350,000, combined with super low survival rates, it is an ultra-rare trophy piece that commands a massive, massive premium today. As a beginner, it is absolutely vital to understand that not all CC dates are created equal.
Now, if you're shopping around for Morgan dollars, you are for sure going to hear the term GSA. A huge influx of pristine, uncirculated Morgans actually came from what's called the GSA hoard. For decades, millions of these coins just sat in U.S. Treasury vaults, completely untouched since the day they were minted. Crazy, right? Well, in the 1970s and 80s, the government finally sold them to the public in these special black plastic packaging cases. Today, a Carson City Morgan still sitting in its original GSA holder carries a serious extra premium, simply because it has perfect provenance directly from the government vaults.
All right, part 4, avoiding fakes and forgeries, protecting your investment. We do have to talk about a slightly darker side of the hobby here. Because that little CC adds so much monetary value to a coin, the market is, unfortunately, a prime target for scammers. And as a beginner, you really need to have your guard up.
Think about it. The price difference between a Philadelphia Morgan and a Carson City Morgan of the exact same year can be hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars. So, forgers will frequently take common Philadelphia coins and literally glue, solder, or stamp a fake CC mark onto the back. It's a highly deceptive practice specifically designed to separate new collectors from their hard-earned money.
So how do we turn those risks into actionable safety steps? First off, learn the die markers. Genuine CC marks have specific styles depending on the year. Second, always verify the weight. A lot of fakes fail basic measurement tests. But most importantly, especially when you're just starting out, rely heavily on third-party professional authentication. Buying coins that are already graded and sealed in protective slabs by reputable companies like PCGS or NGC is hands down the single best way to ensure you are buying a genuine piece of history.
And that brings us to our final section. Part 5, Starting Your Collection, Strategies for Beginners. With the history understood and your safety checks firmly in place, you are officially ready to start building your own tangible piece of the Wild West. So how should a beginner actually approach this whole thing?
Well, you could tackle this by building what's called a typeset, which is incredibly fun. That just means finding one example of each coin size they made, from a dime all the way up to $1. Or you could try a date run, where you aim to capture all 13 years of the CC Morgan dollar. But honestly, my best piece of advice? Start small. Focus on an affordable, circulated common date like an 1882 CC. Get a real feel for the market first. And then, as your collection grows over time, you can set an ultimate aspirational goal of acquiring a CC gold piece, like a $10 eagle or a $20 double eagle. Those are without a doubt some of the rarest and most beautiful coins the Mint ever produced.
From the deep, dangerous depths of the Comstock lode, all the way to the palm of your hand, the legacy of Carson City is out there, just waiting for you. You've got the roadmap, you know the history, and you know exactly how to protect yourself. So I'll leave you with this one final thought. Which pioneer treasure are you going to claim for your collection first?